Welcome back to Code Hive, the place where we make it work, make it right, and make it fast. So in today's video, I want to discuss the different attributes in PL/SQL. So there is a lot of attributes that you have in PL/SQL, but I'm just going to discuss the three that are mostly used, right? So the first one that we're going to look at is the row type attribute. So these attributes are represented using a percentage sign and then the keyword. So if you're working with row type, you're going to say your percentage sign as well as your keyword, which is the row type. So I will be looking at all of these three, right? So I'm first going to look at one definition, then we quickly go to our Oracle, and then we work on it, and then we look at the second one, and so forth. So the first one that we'll be looking at is the row type. So the row type, basically, it represents a record that has the same structure as a row in a table or a cursor. So the example that I have, I want us to be using a table, right? So I don't want to use a cursor for this example. Okay, so I'm going to say it again. It represents a record that has the same structure as a row in a table or a cursor. So it will make sense. So I'm quickly just going to open up my Oracle. So I already created a file. So this is where we're going to do the whole example. So the first thing that you need to do, so let's say they want you to find for example, if I'm working with my product table that you can see over there, let's say we want to display a specific product, right? So we want to say if this product exists or it doesn't, right? Based on the table that we have, right? So instead of having to declare different variables, so declaring the product ID variable, the product variable, the prices, and so forth, right? Instead of doing that individually, we can just create one record and we use the row type attribute. Okay, so that's what I'm going to show you guys over here. So the first thing that I said in the previous video is that whenever you're working with PL/SQL and you're going to have some output, you need to set server output on so you are able to see your output. Okay, then we have our declare, right? We have our declare block. So in the previous videos when we were talking about cursors, right, we looked at the fact that when you are working with cursors, right, you need to have variables. So instead of having different variables, like I said earlier on, we are just going to create a record. So in that record, it is going to store everything from our table. So let me just make this a bit bigger. Okay, so the record that I want is, let me say, prod record. Okay, so basically product record, right? So it's the name of the record, right? So now, in order to use the attribute, you are going to call your table. So in this case, we are using the product table, right? So hence the product. And then you are going to have your row type. Okay, so that's how you declare it, right? So we are declaring a product record, which we are calling prod record, right? And we are storing all the rows or the row attributes, if you can say that, the columns, right, from the product table. Okay, so hence why we're saying product, and then we have the row type. So again, like we said earlier on, that the row type represents a record that has the same structure as a row in a table. So this record will have everything from the product, right? So that whole row, so the product ID, the product, the price, etc., like that. Okay, so that's all that we're declaring. So instead of having to declare the product, then having the data type, then going to the product ID and then the data type, and then the price and then the data type, we can just do that one thing, and that's that. Okay, so basically that is it for the declare. Okay, then the next thing that we are going to have our begin block, right? So this is where you have all your SQL queries, right? So we are going to say select all, right? So we want everything into, right? So select all into. So where are we storing everything that we are selecting? We are going to store it in our record. So in our prod record, okay? And then where are we getting all that information? From our product table, okay? So now let's say we want to only display where the product ID is equals to A501, okay? So we're quickly gonna say product ID is equals to A501. Okay, so let me explain. So we are saying select all, right, into the prod record. So everything from our product table that we're selecting, we are going to store it in our record. So it's going to store the same way it looks in the product table. So it will be in order. So it will start from product ID, product, price, etc. So that's what line 7, 8, and 9 is for. But now we are saying in line 9 where the product ID is equals to A501. So we're only going to select that row. Okay? That row where the product ID is equals to A501. Okay? So now things getting a bit different. So now we are going to have an if statement, right? So we are going to say that if prod record, okay, so we are calling our product record, right, dot product ID, okay, is not null, then, okay, I will explain this part. So then we need to output. So dbms underscore output dot put line, okay. So I'm just going to make this fairly simple. Product found, then we can just go ahead and display the product. So before I get into that, I want to explain line 11. So what we are saying is we are saying that, okay, if product record, right, which is our record dot product ID, so what you are saying is you are calling the product record, which we declared on line 4, right? And then we are saying dot product ID. So we are checking the product ID in the product record. But what's in the product record? In the product record is everything that we selected from line 7 to line 9. All of that is being stored into the prod record. Hence why here we said into. So everything that we're selecting in line 7, 8, and 9, we are storing it into the prod record, right? So now we are saying that if the prod record dot product ID, which product ID? This product ID is not null, then this is what we output. So we're going to say product is found, and then let's just say we want to display the product name. So we're going to say prod record. So everything we are fetching from the product record, okay, hence why we're going to say prod record dot product. So we are going to display the product name, okay. Let me just make some space. Okay, so we're going to display the product name, and then we're going to concatenate, right, and then we're going to print out the product price. So we're going to say prod record dot price, right, and then that's basically the stuff that we want to display. So I just want to add some space between the two things, okay, and then that's the end, and then we end it like that. So now because it's our if statement, so if that is true, then we do that. Else, what do we do if that is not true? So we're going to output that the product is not found. I don't know if this is making sense, but I will re-explain to you guys. Okay, so we'll say product not found. I'm just really trying to keep it simple so that you guys can just understand, you know, everything that's happening. Okay, so once we're done with our else, then we are going to end if, right, and then we are going to end our PLSQL block. So I'm seeing a few errors that are happening right now. So if you see on line 9, I didn't end with a semicolon. And also you can see that here I'm adding space between the two things that I'm outputting, but I did not concatenate. So I need to go ahead and concatenate, and you can see that everything now looks perfect. Okay, so let me just run this and then I can explain to you guys what just happened. Okay, so it says product found. So we have Samsung 42-inch and the price is 24,000. Okay, so yeah, so let me just explain to you guys everything that happened. So we are setting server output on inline 1, right? Then we are having our declare section. So in our declare section, we are using the row type attribute. So the row type attribute, we just said that it gets all the records, right, from the table, right? So all the matching records from the table. I did explain here that it represents a record that has the same structure as a row in a table or a cursor. So in this case, we are using it in terms of a table. Okay, then we have our begin. Okay, so again, line 4, it's your record name, right, which is the product ID, and then your table, right, the table that you are going to use the row attribute with, right? So we are using our product table and then your row type attribute. And then in our begin section, right, we have select all, right? So everything that we are selecting, we are going to store it into our prod record, hence why we have into prod record. Then we have from product, where product ID is equals to that. Okay, then now what we're doing is we are saying that if the prod record dot product ID is not null, then you're going to output, okay, that the product has been found. Then you're going to output the product name as well as the product price, right? Else the product is not found, then you end your if statement and then you end your PL/SQL block. Okay, so I want to explain this part, right? So like I said earlier on, that we are using things that are stored within our prod record, right? Hence why we are saying prod record dot product ID is the same way as using joins. So if you've noticed, when we're working with not joins, when we're working with aliases, right? So you would say that your product table has an alias of P, right? So if now you want to get maybe the product ID from your product table, which has an alias of P, you would say P dot product ID, right? So this is basically the same kind of thing that's happening. Instead of using an alias, we are fetching all the stuff from our product record, right? So basically that's how you use the row type, right? So basically, like I said, it provides a record type that represents a row in a table. Okay, is that this record, right, that we're creating, right, can store an entire row of data, right, that is selected from the table or a cursor. So in this case, we're using from a table, right? So this product record, right, is storing an entire row of data that we have selected from our table, right? That table being the product table. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so now let's look at the next one, right? So the next one that we have is the type. Let's actually look at the not found, right? So the not found, it returns true if the most recent cursor operation did not return a row. Okay, so you see over there it says a recent cursor operation. Okay, so for this one, we have looked at the explicit cursor as well as the implicit cursor, right? So in this example, we created a cursor and we named it cursor 3, right? And then in our begin section, we did say that if that cursor is not found, then we exit, right? But if it is found, then we continue with our cursor. So I'm not really going to explain that one that much, because I think I did show you guys in the other video where, you know, we actually kind of used that. So I'm just going to run this script, right, of the cursor, and then we will be able to see the whole output, right? But now, what happens if we say cursor 5? So we know that we don't have any cursor 5 because the cursor that we declared is called cursor 3. So what happens now if we use that with the not found attribute? Okay, so what happens if we do that? So obviously if we run that, it's just going to say not found because that cursor is not there. So now it will exit when it's not found. So that's the not found attribute. Okay, so I hope that also makes sense. Okay, so the last one that I want to discuss is the type attribute, right? So basically this one represents a variable that has the same data type as a specific database column or a variable. Okay, so yeah, so basically this is used when you're declaring variables that will hold specific values. Okay, so I want to look at our cursor example that we looked at in the previous video, right? So in our declare statement, right, section, we have these four variables over here, right? So in this case, we did specify the data type, right? So now in terms of doing that, right, we want to use the type attribute. So what we would do, right, so let's say we have our product name, so we want to create a product name variable. Actually, let me comment these ones out. Okay, let me just comment this out. Okay, so let's declare these variables, but this time we are going to declare them using the type attribute. So the first one that we're declaring is a product name. So instead of having to specify varchar 250, you need to look that, okay, cool, this product name variable is coming from my product table, right? So it's coming from my product table, but then which column in that product table is it coming from? It's coming from the product column, right? And then you're going to say type, just like that. So basically what this will do is it will declare a variable called product name, right? And then it will go to your product table, right? Hence the product dot product, which is the column, and then it will take the type of that data type, hence why the type attribute. Okay, so let us do the next one. So the next one that we want is product price. Okay, so we're still getting it from our product table, but this time we're getting it from the price column. Then we're going to say percentage, and then we're going to say type. And then the next one that we have is the sales date, right? So the sales date is coming from our sales table. So we're going to say sales date, then it's coming from our sales table. Dot, what column is it? It's the sales date column, and then the type attribute. Oops, type attribute. Then the last one is the company name. Okay, where is it coming from? It's coming from the customer table, right? Which column is it coming from? It's coming from the company name column, and then we are getting the type, so the data type. Okay, so let us run this and see what happens. Okay, so basically it's saying cursor 5. Okay, let me change that to cursor 3. And there we go. Okay, so wait, let me just clear that. So the reason why it was giving an error is because earlier on I was trying to show you guys the not found. So we changed that from cursor 3 to cursor 5 to see what happens if we use the not found attribute. So if I just run that again, then it will output successfully. So you still see your product name, product price, sales date, and everything else. Okay, so it works. So that's the type attribute. So basically these variables over here we declared in the previous videos, and we declared the data types. So we said varchar 2 number, varchar 2, as well as varchar 2, right? But if you want to save time, I don't know if it's saving time, but if you just want to eliminate making mistakes or getting any errors because of the data types not corresponding, then the one thing that you can do is use the type attribute. So line 14, 15, 16, and 17, we are using the type attribute. So we have the product name, right? The product price, the sales date, as well as the company name. So all those are your variable names. And then the next thing that we're indicating is the table, right? So we are working with the product table. And then what column are we working with? We are working with the product table, the product column, right? And we are getting the type. So we are getting that specific data type of the product column in the product table, and that data type will be this variable's data type. Okay, same with all of these. So company name is the name of your variable. Then you have your customer table, and then you have your company name column. And then we are getting the data type, right? So basically we are getting the data type, right, of that column in that table, and we are assigning it or storing it as that company name variable. So that data type that we're getting is going to be the same data type for that specific variable. I don't know if this makes sense, but I've tried to explain it. I've tried to explain it so that it's easy for you guys to understand. But all you need to know is that when working with attributes, you start with your percentage sign. So I've shown you guys the type attribute. I've also shown you guys the not found attribute. And then I've also discussed the row type attribute. Okay, so I hope this video made sense. Also, please do notice that these are some of the attributes that we have. Mostly use attributes, right? So that is it for this video. I really hope this video made sense. If you like this video, please hit the like button. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you're new to this channel, and thank you guys so much for watching.